The morning sun was just rising over Earth when the alien ship arrived like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Admiral Dae-Ho Kim was drinking his coffee in his command chair aboard the massive Terran flagship Indomitable when the alarm started, screaming across every human space station in the solar system. The bridge crew rushed to their stations as the biggest alien warship anyone had ever seen dropped out of hyperspace right above the moon. Lieutenant Sumin Choi at the sensor station called out the numbers and everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. 15 kilometers long, she said, her voice shaking a little. The thing is 15 kilometers long, sir, and it's got more weapons than our entire home fleet. Admiral Dae-Ho Kim put down his coffee cup and looked at the main screen. The alien ship filled the entire display like a massive metal mountain, covered in gun turrets and glowing energy shields. The hull was dark gray with strange symbols carved deep into the metal, and weapon ports that glowed red like angry eyes. Captain Heejin Park stood beside the Admiral's chair looking at the readings on her tablet. Sir, the energy output from that ship is off the charts. Their shields alone are using more power than our biggest city commander Tae-Woo Lee was at the weapons station running quick calculations. Admiral, their main guns could probably crack a planet in half. We need to call for backup right now. But Admiral Dae-Ho Kim just smiled and leaned back in his chair. He had been fighting aliens for 20 years, and he knew something that the young crew members did not know yet. He knew that the biggest ships usually belonged to the most arrogant enemies. And arrogant enemies always made the same mistakes. Wait, he told his crew, let's see what they want. The communication system buzzed, and then a deep voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect human language. We demand to speak with your military commander immediately. Admiral Kim nodded to the communications officer and said, put them on screen. The main display changed from showing the alien ship to showing the inside of an alien bridge, and everyone on the human bridge gasped. The alien commander was huge, at least 3 meters tall, with 4 muscular arms and skin that looked like it was made of black rock. His eyes glowed red like hot coals, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like thunder. I am War Marshal Vextar of the Hegemony Empire. The alien said, looking down at the camera like he was looking at insects. Your pathetic little species will surrender to us immediately, or we will destroy every ship, every station, and every city you have. The War Marshal moved closer to the camera, and his red eyes got brighter. We have conquered 1,000 worlds in the past century. Our technology is millions of years ahead of yours. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your ships are slow and weak compared to ours. Admiral Kim scratched his beard and tried not to laugh. The alien was doing exactly what every alien invader did when they first met humans. They bragged about their technology. They threatened to destroy everything, and they assumed that humans would be scared. Marshal, Kim said calmly, you picked the wrong species to threaten. The War Marshal's eyes flared even brighter, and he raised all 4 of his arms. You dare to mock the might of the Hegemony Empire. We have destroyed civilizations that were building starships when your ancestors were still living in caves around. Admiral Kim, his bridge crew, started to smile. Captain Park covered her mouth to hide a grin. Commander Lee shook his head and whispered, here we go again. Lieutenant Choi looked confused because she was new to the fleet and had never seen humans deal with alien bullies before. The War Marshal continued his speech. We have plasma weapons that can melt through any armor. We have shields that can stop any attack. We have ships that can move faster than light, and warriors who have never known defeat. Admiral Kim waited patiently for the alien to finish his bragging. Then he said, Marshal, you sound very confident in your abilities. Of course, I am confident. The War Marshal roared. We are the Hegemony. We are the masters of this galaxy. Every species we have ever encountered has bowed before our power or been destroyed. Then Admiral Kim smiled his biggest smile and said, good, I like confidence. It makes victory so much sweeter. The War Marshal paused, looking confused. What did you say? Human, I said I like confidence, Admiral Kim repeated. You seem very sure that your technology is better than ours. You seem very sure that you can destroy our ships. You seem very sure that humans will surrender to you. Yes, the War Marshal said slowly, his red eyes narrowing. We are sure of all of those things. Excellent, Admiral Kim said. Then you won't mind proving it? What do you mean, human? I mean, Admiral Kim said, leaning forward in his chair. that all this bragging is pretty boring. Why don't we settle this like warriors? You bring your best fleet, we bring ours, and we see who really has the superior technology." The War Marshal was quiet for a long moment, clearly not expecting this response. Most species begged for mercy, or tried to negotiate when faced with hegemony power. But these humans were actually challenging him to a fight. "You would dare face the hegemony fleet in open combat?" The War Marshal asked. Admiral Kim shrugged. "Why not? You said your ships are better than ours. You said your weapons are more advanced. You said your warriors have never been defeated, so prove it." The War Marshal straightened up to his full height, his forearms crossing over his massive chest. "Very well, human. We will demonstrate the futility of resistance. In 3 standard days, we will return with our full battle fleet. You may gather whatever pathetic forces you can muster, and we will show the galaxy what happens to species who defy the hegemony." 3 days. Sounds perfect. Admiral Kim said. "How many ships should we each bring to make this fair?" The War Marshal laughed a sound like rocks grinding together. "Fair, human. We do not need fairness. We are bringing 200 of our finest warships. You may bring as many ships as you wish. It will not matter. 200 ships," Admiral Kim said, nodding thoughtfully. "That should be enough for a good warm-up." "Warm-up," the War Marshal repeated. "Yes," Admiral Kim said, "a warm-up. You see, Marshal, most human children could probably handle 200 ships, but I suppose it will have to do." The War Marshal stared at Admiral Kim for several seconds, his red eyes getting brighter and brighter. "You mock us, human. You will regret this arrogance when your ships are burning wreckage floating in space." "I look forward to it," Admiral Kim said cheerfully. "See you in 3 days, Marshal. Try to bring something more challenging next time." The transmission ended, and the alien ship on the main screen began moving away slowly, as if the War Marshal wanted to make sure the humans could see its massive size and firepower. As soon as the connection was cut, the entire bridge crew burst into laughter. Captain Park wiped tears from her eyes and said, "Sir, that poor alien has no idea what he's gotten himself into, Commander." Lee was grinning from ear to ear. 200 ships, he said. "Admiral, should we call the reserves?" Lieutenant Choi looked around at everyone laughing and asked, "Sir, why is everyone so happy? That ship could probably destroy our entire home fleet, Admiral." Kim turned to look at the young lieutenant with a kind smile. "Lieutenant," he said, "that alien just made the biggest mistake any species can make when dealing with humans." "What mistake, sir?" she asked. "He challenged us to a fair fight," Admiral Kim said, and his smile got even bigger. "Humans don't do fair fights, Lieutenant. We do total war, and we smile while we do it. Send a message to all human colonies and fleets." Admiral Kim continued, "Tell them we have visitors who want to play war games. Tell them to bring everything that can fly, shoot, or explode." Captain Park was already working on her communication console. "Sir, what about the civilian ships? Should we evacuate them?" "Evacuate them?" Admiral Kim laughed. "Captain, this is going to be the most fun we've had in years. Why would we want to miss it? Tell the civilians they can volunteer if they want, but warn them it might get a little crazy." As the crew began sending messages across human space, Admiral Kim looked back at the main screen where the alien ship was disappearing into hyperspace. The War Marshal thought he was facing a primitive species that would be easy to conquer. He was about to learn why every smart alien in the galaxy had a simple rule about humans: don't fight them unless you absolutely have to, because they fight like they enjoy it and somehow they always win. Fleet Admiral Jin Woo-song was eating breakfast at Luna Command when the priority message arrived. The communication came from Admiral Dae-ho Kim aboard the Indomitable, and it was only 3 words. "Family reunion, bring everything." Jin Woo nearly choked on his coffee, but then he started laughing so hard that the other officers in the cafeteria turned to look at him. A family reunion was human military code for the most exciting thing that could happen. An alien species had challenged humanity to a fight. Within 10 minutes, every human military installation across 12 star systems was buzzing with activity. But it was not the frantic panic that most species would show when facing a superior enemy force. Instead, it was the excited energy of people who had just been invited to their favorite party. Communications officer Nam Soo Han sat at his desk sending coded messages to colony fleets, mining stations, exploration vessels, and even the deep space research ships. The message was always the same: family reunion in Sol system. Bring everything that flies, shoots, or explodes. Party starts in 3 days. The responses came back faster than Namsu had ever seen. Cargo ships changed course immediately. Passenger liners dumped their tourists. At the nearest space station, mining vessels abandoned their asteroid claims. Exploration ships turned around from the edge of known space. But the most interesting responses came from the civilian ships. Captain Bo Young Kim, commanding the luxury cruise liner Paradise Dream, sent back a message that made Namsu laugh out loud. Can we bring the kitchen staff? They make excellent Molotov cocktails. Research vessel. Curiosity asked if they could bring their collection of experimental bacteria. Commander Sora Lee explained that they had been developing new life forms that ate metal, and they thought this might be a good time for field testing. The garbage hauler Cosmic Janitor requested permission to dump their entire cargo hold on enemy ships. Captain Minho Park explained that 3 months of human waste from Mars colony might not be a traditional weapon, but it would definitely ruin someone's day. Dr. Yoon Biyu, head of Terran weapons development, was having the best day of her career. She had been working on classified projects for years, waiting for a chance to test them in real combat. Now she had permission to deploy everything in her secret laboratories. Her team started loading ships with gravitational torpedoes that could create tiny black holes, quantum disruptors that made enemy equipment work backwards, reality generators that turned enemy weapons into harmless light shows, and her personal favorite, Murphy's Law generators, devices that made everything go wrong. At the worst possible moment, the manufacturing stations around Jupiter began working overtime, producing ammunition and spare parts, but they also started making custom modifications. Cargo containers were turned into missile launchers. Passenger compartments became fighter hangars. Even the luxury suites on cruise ships were fitted with weapon systems. Captain Woojin Kang commanded the stealth destroyer Silent Death, and he was grinning like a child on his birthday. His ship was one of 40 stealth vessels that most aliens did not even know existed. Human stealth technology was not just about hiding from sensors. It made ships look like space debris, cosmic dust, or sensor ghosts. The stealth fleet began moving into position around the expected battle area. They would wait hidden until the aliens arrived and then spring the first surprise. Woojin checked his weapon systems and loaded his torpedo tubes with something his crew called reality check warheads. Meanwhile, the regular Terran fleet was still 3 days away, but they were moving fast. Massive dreadnoughts, carrier groups, and weapons platforms that could crack planets were burning through hyperspace toward Sol system. Fleet Admiral Jin Woo Song sent a message to his old friend, Daeho. Save some for us. But the real magic was happening with the civilian volunteers. Ships that had never been designed for combat were being turned into weapons of war. The passenger liner, Starlight Princess, had her swimming pool drained and filled with mining laser turrets. The cargo ship, Heavy Lifter, replaced her crane arms with plasma cannons. Young Lieutenant Yuri Kim aboard the cruiser. Defiant was studying battle plans, but she was also reading history books. She wanted to understand how humans had won impossible fights before. From ancient Earth battles to the Mars Rebellion, humans always found a way to turn weakness into strength. The pattern was always the same. She realized humans did not fight fair. They used everything available. They turned their environment into a weapon. They made their enemies defeat themselves, and most importantly, they enjoyed every minute of it. Captain Dae-hyun Park, commanding the converted mining ship Rock Crusher, was teaching his civilian crew how to operate military weapons. His ship was designed to crack apart asteroids, but the mining beams could also cut through enemy armor like butter. His crew was mostly retired miners who thought this sounded like more fun than their old jobs. The medical ships were preparing too, but not just for casualties. Dr. Haewon Choi aboard the hospital ship Mercy was loading her surgical bay with repair nanobots that could fix damaged human ships. But she was also preparing special nanobots that could cause very specific problems for alien technology. The communication networks across human space were buzzing with messages that would have confused any alien listeners. Humans were sharing jokes about their upcoming battle. They were making bets on how long the fight would last. They were arguing about who would get the best souvenirs from alien wreckage. Commander Taemin Lee was coordinating supply ships, and he could not believe what people were volunteering to bring. Asteroid miners were donating explosives. Luxury hotels were sending their best chefs to keep morale high. Research stations were contributing experimental technologies that had never been tested, but the strangest volunteers were the families. Civilian. Ships full of children and elderly people were requesting permission to watch the battle from safe distances. They wanted to see humanity defend itself. Captain Young Soo Park, commanding a family transport, explained it simply. Our kids need to see how humans handle bullies. The alien war marshal had given humans 3 days to prepare, and humans were using every minute. They were not just gathering ships and weapons. They were preparing to teach the hegemony empire the most important lesson in the galaxy. Never underestimate a species that treats war like entertainment. Back on Luna Command, Admiral Jin Woo-song was reviewing the fleet reports. Over 800 ships had volunteered for the fight. Military vessels, civilian ships converted, cargo haulers, experimental prototypes, and even museum pieces that had been restored to working condition. His tactical officer, Commander Hyo-jin Kim, showed him the final numbers. Sir, we have enough firepower to glass a continent, enough volunteers to crew 1,000 ships, and enough crazy ideas to keep military historians busy for centuries. Jin Woo nodded and smiled. The hegemony empire was bringing 200 advanced warships crewed by professional warriors using technology developed. Over millions of years, humanity was bringing everything they could find, crewed by anyone who wanted to help. Using whatever worked, it should have been an impossible fight. The aliens had every advantage in technology, training, organization, and experience. But Jinwoo knew something that the war marshal did not know. Humans had advantages that could not be measured in weapons or ships. They had creativity that turned garbage into weapons. They had stubbornness that refused to accept defeat. They had humor that kept them fighting when anyone else would surrender. And most importantly, they had the absolute certainty that any problem could be solved if you were willing to try hard enough and have fun doing it. The countdown began. 2 days until the aliens returned. 2 days for humanity to finish turning their entire civilization into one giant practical joke that would explode in the hegemony's face. War Marshal Vextar thought he was facing a primitive species that would provide easy target practice. He was about to discover why every intelligent alien in the galaxy had learned to be very polite when dealing with humans. The hegemony fleet arrived exactly 3 days later, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 200 massive warships arranged in a precise geometric pattern that maximized their firepower while protecting their command vessels. Each ship was a masterpiece of alien engineering, bristling with plasma cannons and energy shields that shimmered like angry stars. War Marshal Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Dominion, looking at the human fleet through his tactical display, and he felt confident. The humans had gathered many ships, but they looked chaotic and disorganized. Ships were arriving from different directions at different times, with no apparent coordination. Look at them, he told his officers. They have no formation discipline, no unified command structure. They fly like insects buzzing around without purpose. This will be easier than I expected. His tactical officer, a 4-armed warrior named Subcommander Crix, pointed at the display. Sir, the humans have over 800 ships, but most of them appear to be civilian vessels. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, even garbage ships. Perfect, Vextar said. They are so desperate they are using merchant ships to fight warships. This proves how primitive and unprepared they are. Open fire on their largest military vessels first. We will destroy their capacity to fight back. The hegemony fleet opened fire with synchronized precision. 200 ships unleashing plasma barrages that lit up space like a miniature sun. The beams were perfectly coordinated to hit the biggest human warships at exactly the same moment. But something strange happened. The human fleet did not try to form battle lines or coordinate their return fire. Instead, they scattered in all directions like startled fish. Some ships dove toward Earth's gravity, while others climbed toward the asteroid belt, and several groups seemed to be running away entirely. Cowards, Vextar roared. They flee from our superior firepower. Chase them, down and destroy them all. But Admiral Dae-ho Kim aboard the Indomitable was not fleeing. He was implementing Doctrine 7, a battle strategy that looked like retreat, but was actually the opening move in humanity's favorite tactic, organized chaos. Each scattered group had a specific purpose, and soon the aliens would understand why humans were feared across the galaxy. Captain Hyjin Park commanded a destroyer group that raced toward the asteroid belt. Her ships did not hide behind the rocks, like the aliens expected. Instead, they began pushing asteroids using gravity manipulators and mining equipment that had been hastily converted to military use. Each asteroid was the size of a city building, and the human ships launched them at incredible speed toward the alien fleet. The hegemony point defense systems activated immediately, vaporizing the incoming rocks with precise plasma bursts. "Excellent," Vextar said. "Our defenses work perfectly against their primitive kinetic weapons," but then his sensor officer made a disturbing report. "Sir, the vaporized asteroids contained high concentrations of metallic ore. When our plasma beams destroyed them, they created metal fragments moving at near light speed." "What does that mean?" Vextar demanded it. "Means, sir, that our own weapons turned those rocks into cosmic shotgun blasts. The fragments are now peppering our shields like high-velocity shrapnel." Across the hegemony fleet, warning lights began flashing as thousands of metal fragments struck their energy shields. The shields held, but the constant impacts were draining power and creating electromagnetic interference that disrupted their targeting systems. Commander Taewoo Lee watched from his stealth destroyer Stormbringer as the alien fleet began to look less organized. The humans had used the aliens' own superior weapons against them, turning defensive fire into offensive shrapnel. "All stealth ships prepare for attack run," he ordered. "The aliens still cannot see us coming. Remember, we want to disable, not destroy. We need some of them alive to tell the story." The 40 stealth destroyers began their approach invisible to hegemony sensors. They did not look like ships to alien detection equipment. Instead, they appeared as cosmic dust sensor echoes or empty space. Human stealth technology did not just hide their ships, it made them look like something else entirely. Lieutenant Yuri Kim aboard the cruiser. Defiant was part of the group diving toward Earth, but she was not running away. She was building speed for something the aliens had never seen before. A gravity-assisted attack run that would give her ship impossible acceleration. "Sir," she called to her captain. "We are approaching optimal trajectory for the Luna slingshot." Maneuver approved her. Captain replied, "All hands prepare for high-G acceleration. We are about to show these aliens what happens when humans get creative with physics." The first real casualties occurred when a hegemony plasma beam destroyed the human cargo ship Lucky Dragon. But instead of demoralizing the human fleet, this seemed to make them angry. The dying ship's captain sent a final transmission that was broadcast on all human frequencies. "Tell them we said hello," Captain Minho Park said, just before his ship exploded. But the explosion was not normal. The Lucky Dragon had been carrying experimental mining charges, and when they detonated, they took out 2 hegemony escort ships in a brilliant fireball war marshal. Vextar stared at his tactical display in confusion. The humans were not fighting like any species he had ever encountered. They were not trying to preserve their ships or minimize casualties. Instead, they seemed to be using their losses as weapons. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "We are receiving transmissions from multiple human ships, but they do not sound like military communications. Put them on speakers," Vextar ordered. The bridge filled with human voices, but instead of battle commands or surrender offers, the aliens heard something that chilled them to their bones. The humans were laughing, they were joking with each other. They were making bets on which alien ship would explode. "Next, listen to this," one transmission said. "Hey, Rock Crusher, you missed. That big one in the middle." Another voice replied, "I was aiming for the small one next to it, I got it." "Didn't I?" A third voice joined in. "Can someone pass the popcorn? This is better than the movies." Vextar realized with growing horror that the humans were not just fighting his fleet, they were enjoying it. They treated this life or death battle like some kind of entertainment. This was completely outside his experience with warfare. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human ships that appeared to be retreating are now taking positions around our fleet. They have us surrounded. Vextar repeated, "That is impossible. We have superior firepower, and they scattered in all directions." "Yes, sir, but they scattered in a pattern. Now they are, attacking us from every angle simultaneously. Our formation gives us no advantage because they are not fighting in formation. As if to prove the point, human ships began attacking from directions the hegemony formation was never designed to handle. Cargo ships modified with mining lasers struck from below. Passenger liners equipped with improvised missiles attacked from the sides. Research vessels released clouds of something that made hegemony sensors stop working properly. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any logical battle tactics. The humans used garbage as weapons, turned their own losses into advantages, and somehow managed to coordinate their chaotic attacks without any apparent communication. System War Marshal Vextar realized that he had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitive. They were something far more dangerous. They were unpredictable. The real chaos began when Lieutenant Suman Choi activated the quantum disruption field from her station. Aboard the Indomitable across the entire battlefield, invisible waves of energy began interfering with hegemony technology, but not in the way anyone expected. War Marshal Vextar watched in horror as his perfectly organized fleet began to malfunction in the most impossible ways. Weapons that had worked flawlessly for centuries suddenly started targeting their own allies. Shield generators began playing what sounded like human music instead of maintaining protective barriers. Navigation computers displayed recipes for something called kimchi instead of star charts. "How are they doing this?" he demanded from his science officer. "What kind of weapon could cause our systems to malfunction in such specific ways?" Sir, the science officer replied with 4 trembling arms. "They are not destroying our technology. They are making it work backwards. Every system we activate somehow feeds information to their disruption network. It is like they understand our equipment better than we do." Dr. Yunbiyu smiled from her laboratory ship as she watched her Murphy's Law generators do exactly what she had designed them to do. The devices did not attack alien ships directly. Instead, they simply made everything go wrong at the worst possible moment. Alien weapons overheated just as they were about to fire. Communication systems broadcast embarrassing personal messages on military frequencies. Gravity control systems randomly switched from repel to attract, causing ships to bump into each other like confused fish. The hegemony warriors had never experienced anything like this. Their technology was supposed to be foolproof, tested across 1,000,000 battles and refined over thousands of years. But somehow these primitive humans had found ways to make their most advanced systems betray them. Captain Wu Jin Kang chose this moment to reveal his stealth destroyers. They appeared like ghosts materializing inside the hegemony formation where no ships should have been able to hide. The aliens suddenly found 40 human warships sitting right next to their most important vessels. But the stealth ships did not attack with conventional weapons. Instead, they released clouds of nanobots that attached to alien hulls and began rewriting their computer systems. Within minutes, entire hegemony battleships were broadcasting human comedy shows on their military frequencies. Sir, a hegemony communications officer reported in panic. "Our flagship is now transmitting something called Saturday Night Live to the entire fleet." War Marshal Vextar felt his confidence cracking like ice in a fire. These humans were not just defeating his fleet. They were humiliating it in ways he had never imagined possible. Every attack seemed designed to cause maximum embarrassment while demonstrating superior technology. The tide of battle turned completely when the civilian volunteers proved that humans could turn anything into a weapon. The luxury cruise ship Paradise Dream, now bristling with improvised armaments, rammed a hegemony battlecruiser while playing classical music at maximum volume. The impact should have destroyed the cruise ship, but human engineers had reinforced it with mining equipment and the battlecruiser's shields had been disabled by nanobots. The alien ship crumpled like paper while the cruise ship bounced off and kept fighting. Captain Bo Young Kim broadcast from the Paradise Dream as her ship spun away. That was for canceling our vacation plans. Even more shocking was the garbage hauler Cosmic Janitor, which approached a hegemony command ship and dumped its entire cargo hold onto the alien bridge. The ship had been carrying 3 months of organic waste from Mars colony, and when it splattered across the command ship's viewports, the alien crew inside began making sounds that universal translators could not process. Captain Minho Park transmitted cheerfully, "Sorry about that, but you did interrupt our garbage run." Young Lieutenant Yuri Kim achieved the battle's most spectacular single victory when her cruiser Defiant completed its gravity-assisted slingshot maneuver around Earth's moon. The physics should have been impossible, but human engineers had learned to treat physics more like suggestions than laws. Her ship accelerated to nearly 10% of light speed and rammed directly through a hegemony dreadnought's main shield generator. The impact created a cascade failure that disabled the shields on half the alien port fleet. Her final transmission before ejecting in an escape pod was, "Physics is optional when you are having fun," but the humans were not finished. Fleet Admiral Jin Woo Song had been holding back his secret weapon while the civilians and regulars had their fun. Now he unleashed the mining colonies from the outer system. These were not military ships. They were industrial vessels designed to crack apart planets for mineral extraction. When 12 planet-killer mining ships appeared and began targeting the alien mothership Eternal Dominion with mining beams that could cut through planetary cores, War Marshal Vextar finally understood what kind of enemy he was really fighting. These were not soldiers. These were not even warriors. These were beings who treated the laws of physics like guidelines, who turned their garbage into weapons, who made their own technology work better by making alien technology work worse. The mining beams struck his flagship and began carving through armor that had withstood the weapons of 1,000 conquered species. The beams did not just cut, they reorganized matter at the atomic level, turning solid metal into gas. And Energy Sir, his engineering officer, reported, "Our hull is not just being damaged, it is being converted into component atoms. The humans appear to be mining our ship while we are still in it." Captain Donghyun Park, commanding the mining ship Rock Crusher, opened a communication channel to the alien flagship. His weathered face appeared on Vextar's screen, and he looked like he was having the time of his life. "Marshal," he said cheerfully, "you wanted to see our strongest fleet. This is not our military. These are just the people who happened to be in the neighborhood when you showed up." "What do you mean?" the War Marshal asked, his voice shaking. "Oh, the real Terran fleet is still 2 days out," Donghyun explained casually. "We are asteroid miners, garbage collectors, tourist boats, and research scientists. The people who fight wars for a living are going to be really upset. They missed all the fun." War Marshal Vextar looked around his bridge at his crew of professional warriors who had conquered star systems and now cowered behind their stations while alarms screamed warnings about hull breaches, nanbot infestations, and shield failures. These were not even human soldiers. These were civilians having a bad day who decided to teach some bullies a lesson. And they were winning not through superior firepower or better training, but through pure creative insanity that turned every disadvantage into an advantage. The final insult came when 12-year-old genius Haiwan Kim, aboard her family's trading ship, successfully hacked into the hegemony military communication network. Her school science project about human military tactics began broadcasting on all alien frequencies, complete with animated diagrams of spaceships exploding. The presentation was titled, "Why Humans Are Pretty Cool Actually," and it included detailed explanations of every tactic the humans had used in the battle. The little girl's cheerful voice explained concepts like organized chaos, weaponized garbage, and the psychological advantages of enjoying warfare. War Marshal Vextar realized that he was not just being defeated, he was being educated by a human child who was treating his mighty fleet like a learning opportunity. His warriors, the conquerors of 1,000 worlds, were being lectured by a little girl who thought war was interesting. The hegemony empire had made the greatest mistake any species could make when dealing with humans. They had assumed that bigger weapons meant certain victory they had never encountered, an enemy that could turn their own superiority into weakness or make their most advanced technology work against them. But most terrifying of all, they had never fought an enemy that seemed to get stronger and more creative. The worse the situation became, these humans were not just winning, they were having fun doing it. War Marshal Vextar's flagship, Eternal Dominion, shuddered like a dying animal as human mining beams carved through armor that had been designed to withstand the heat of stars. His bridge crew warriors, who had conquered entire civilizations now, pressed themselves against their stations as emergency lights bathed everything in red. "Impossible," he roared as his tactical display showed the truth that No hegemony commander had ever faced his fleet of 200 ships, had been reduced to 47 in less than 6 hours. But the numbers did not tell the real story of his humiliation. Several of his remaining battleships were now broadcasting human entertainment programs. Their mighty weapons had been turned into transmitters for something, called comedy shows. Their communication systems played human children's songs on repeat. Their navigation computers displayed recipes and shopping lists instead of star charts. Sir, his communications officer reported with shame heavy in his voice. The humans have somehow made our military frequencies broadcast their cultural programming. Half our fleet is now transmitting what appears to be cooking instruction videos, but that was not the worst part. The worst part was that many of his ships were now covered in graffiti. Clouds of human nanobots had attached to their hulls and spelled out messages in 17 different galactic languages. Most of the messages were insults that would make a space pirate blush. The dreadnought Cosmic Fury now displayed the words, "Your mother fights," like a broken mining droid in bright purple letters across its entire hull. The battlecruiser Night Terror had been decorated with what appeared to be human cartoon characters making rude gestures. Captain Donghyun Park commanding the mining ship. Rock Crusher appeared on Vextar's communication screen. His face looked like it belonged to someone's grandfather, and he was actually laughing as he spoke. "Marshal, you look upset," he said kindly. "Did you not enjoy our little demonstration?" "What demonstration?" Vextar demanded. "This is supposed to be a battle, not entertainment." "Oh, this was just a warm-up," Donghyun replied casually. "The folks back home asked us to be gentle with you since you are new to fighting humans. We did not want to hurt your feelings by being too aggressive." "Too aggressive?" Vextar screamed. "You have destroyed over half my fleet." "Actually," Donghyun corrected, "we disabled most of them. Your ships are not destroyed, they are just temporarily embarrassed. Most of your crew members are perfectly fine. They are just learning some new human songs whether they want to or not." Across the battlefield, the evidence of human creativity was everywhere. The luxury liner, Paradise Dream, had somehow captured 3 hegemony destroyers by boarding them with passengers armed with kitchen equipment. The aliens had surrendered rather than fight elderly humans wielding rolling pins and spatulas. The research ship Curiosity had released engineered bacteria that ate specific metals used in alien ship construction. Several hegemony vessels were now developing holes in unfortunate places like bathroom facilities and food preparation areas. Commander Bora Shin led a squadron of converted cargo ships that had discovered the most psychologically damaging attack possible. They were using tractor beams to rearrange the hegemony fleet into embarrassing formations, spelling out human words that roughly translated to, "We are having more fun than you." The civilian volunteers had proven that humans could turn literally anything into a weapon. Tourism ships used their luxury amenities as improvised missile systems, shooting spa equipment and poolside furniture at alien vessels. Scientific research vessels weaponized their laboratory equipment, creating chemical reactions that made alien hulls change colors. But the most terrifying human weapon was their complete lack of fear or respect for superior technology. When faced with ships that were bigger, stronger, and more advanced than anything they had ever seen, the humans simply found ways to make those advantages irrelevant. War Marshal Vextar received a priority transmission from his science officer, "Sir, we have analyzed the human attack patterns and we believe we understand their strategy." "Explain," he ordered desperately. "They are not trying to destroy us, sir. They are trying to teach us a lesson. Every attack has been calculated to cause maximum psychological damage while demonstrating technological superiority in the most humiliating way possible." "What kind of lesson?" "That we should not underestimate species based on their apparent technological level. Sir, these humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They have learned how to defeat enemies who have every possible advantage." The communication system activated again, and this time a different human appeared on screen. She looked like she was barely old enough to be in school, but her eyes sparkled with intelligence that made Vextar feel very old. "Hi there," she said with a cheerful wave. "My name is Haewon Kim, and I just wanted to thank you for helping with my science project about human military tactics." "Science project," Vextar repeated. "Weakly, yes," she continued. My teacher said I needed to demonstrate practical applications of theoretical concepts. So when you challenged us to a fight, I thought it would be perfect for showing how humans adapt to superior opponents. The little girl held up what appeared to be a data pad covered with drawings and diagrams. You see, most species try to match their enemies, strength for strength, but humans do the opposite. We find ways to make strength irrelevant. She pointed to one of her drawings, which showed stick figures defeating much larger stick figures. We turn everything into a weapon. We make our enemies defeat themselves, and most importantly, we have fun while we do it, because fear makes you stupid. Vextar stared at the child who was explaining his defeat like it was a homework assignment. This human child understood warfare better than commanders who had spent centuries conquering galaxies. The final insult came when the real Terran fleet finally arrived. Massive dreadnoughts. Carrier groups and weapons platforms that made Vextar's ships look like toys dropped out of hyperspace and took positions around the battle area. Fleet Admiral Jin Woo-song appeared on the communication screen looking disappointed. "Old friend Dae-ho," he said to Admiral Kim. "You could not save any of them for us." Admiral Kim's image appeared beside Jin Woo's sorry. Jin Woo, but they were not very challenging. The civilians wanted target practice, and you know how hard it is to say no to eager volunteers. Vextar watched in growing horror as he realized that the most powerful military force he had ever seen was treating his defeat like a minor training exercise. The humans who had destroyed his fleet were not even professional soldiers. They were civilians, having a day off. The ships that now surrounded him could have destroyed his original fleet of 200 vessels in minutes. These were the weapons that humanity used when they were actually trying to win wars quickly. The mining ships and passenger liners had just been playing with him. War Marshal Vextar felt something he had never experienced in his long career of conquest. He felt afraid. Not afraid of death or defeat, but afraid of a species that treated the most serious thing in the universe like a game they always won. These humans were not just powerful, they were completely unpredictable. They could turn any disadvantage into an advantage, any weakness into strength, and any defeat into a learning experience. And worst of all, they enjoyed every minute of it. His communications officer interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, the humans are requesting our surrender." Vextar looked around his damaged bridge, at his demoralized crew, at his broken fleet, at the human ships that surrounded him like predators who had decided their prey was not worth eating. He had come to conquer a primitive species, and instead he had learned why every intelligent race in the galaxy whispered warnings about the crazy humans from Soltell. He said quietly that War Marshal Vextar surrenders to the Terran fleet, but he knew that surrender was not the end of his humiliation. It was just the beginning of learning what it meant to lose to humans. The surrender ceremony took place in the most unlikely location imaginable. War Marshal Vextar found himself sitting in the cafeteria aboard Admiral Dae-ho Kim's flagship Indomitable because the formal meeting rooms were being used for a poker game between human crew members. Admiral Kim sat across from him at a simple plastic table, eating what appeared to be a sandwich while Vextar signed surrender documents with shaking hands. Human crew members walked past them carrying lunch trays and discussing their weekend plans as if the defeat of the mighty hegemony empire was just another Tuesday. Marshal Admiral Kim said kindly, as Vextar finished signing. "You made one very important mistake today." "What mistake?" Vextar asked, his voice barely a whisper. "You assumed we were like the other species you have conquered." Kim replied, taking another bite of his sandwich. "But humans do not surrender, Marshal. We do not retreat when the odds are against us. We do not fight fair, and we certainly do not give up when someone tells us we cannot win." The Admiral leaned forward slightly. "Most importantly, Marshal, we have more fun fighting impossible battles than anyone else in the galaxy. When you challenged us to a fair fight, you gave us exactly what we love most. A chance to prove that there is no such thing as impossible." Captain Hai-Jin Park entered the cafeteria and nodded to Admiral Kim. "Sir, the peace treaty negotiations are ready to begin. The alien delegation is waiting in conference room, actually." Kim said they moved to Conference Room D. Conference Room B is being used for the ship's weekly talent show. Apparently, Chief Engineer Min Seo is doing stand-up comedy about alien technology. Vextar followed Admiral Kim through corridors. filled with humans who smiled and waved at him like he was a visiting friend, rather than a defeated enemy. Some crew members offered him food. Others asked if he wanted to see pictures of their families. A few children aboard the ship approached him with drawings they had made of the battle. The peace treaty negotiations were unlike anything in galactic history. The conference room was decorated with balloons and streamers left over from someone's birthday party. Human negotiators sat across from hegemony diplomats while a coffee machine gurgled in the corner. "We have prepared our demands," Admiral Kim announced. Opening a folder, Vextar braced himself for the worst: territorial concessions, tribute payments, forced labor for conquered populations, all the things that victorious species usually demanded. Instead, Admiral Kim read a list that made no sense at all. The hegemony empire agrees to participate in cultural exchange programs with humanity. Joint scientific research projects will be established immediately. A formal apology will be broadcast on galactic news networks with a promise to, quote, play nicer with other species. That is all? Vextar asked. Oh, and one more thing, Kim added with a smile. You have to let our engineers help. Repair your ships, we broke them, so it is only fair that we fix them. The repair operation became another learning experience for the hegemony survivors. Human engineering teams worked alongside alien crews, sharing techniques and technologies that should have been military secrets. By the end of the week, several hegemony engineers were wearing human baseball caps and had learned to curse in Korean Commander Tae-woo. Lee supervised the repairs while teaching alien technicians how human equipment worked. The secret, he explained, is that we design everything to be fixable by anyone using whatever materials are available. Your ships are beautiful, but if something breaks, you need a factory to fix it. Human ships can be repaired with spare parts from completely different machines. The real shock came when the actual Terran fleet arrived in full force. Massive dreadnoughts, each one larger than Vextar's former flagship, took positions around the solar system. Carrier groups launched fighter wings that blotted out the stars. Weapons platforms that could crack planets moved into defensive positions. Fleet Admiral Jin Woo's song greeted his old friend Dae-ho with mock disappointment. You really could not save any of them for the real military, Dae-ho shrugged apologetically. The civilians were having so much fun I did not have the heart to stop them. Besides, you know how competitive our people get when someone challenges them. Vextar watched this exchange with growing horror. The humans who had defeated his fleet, the mining ships, passenger liners, garbage haulers, and research vessels, had been civilians having a day off. The actual human military was something completely different. These ships made his original fleet look like children's toys. Each human dreadnought carried enough firepower to sterilize a continent. The carrier groups could deploy thousands of fighters. The weapons platforms were clearly designed to fight entire fleets simultaneously. A young human officer approached Vextar with a friendly smile. Sir, would you like a tour of our facilities? We think you might find our approach to military engineering interesting. The tour was the most educational and terrifying experience of Vextar's life. The humans showed him weapons that violated several laws of physics, ships that could phase through solid matter, energy systems that drew power directly from black holes, manufacturing facilities that could build entire fleets in days. But the most frightening thing was not their technology, it was their attitude. Every human he met treated warfare like a problem-solving exercise. They discussed tactics the way other species talked about hobbies. They analyzed battles like they were reviewing sports games. Captain Yuri Kim, now recovered from her spectacular ramming attack, met with Vextar in the ship's medical bay where she was being treated for minor injuries. Your people are insane, she told him cheerfully. But that is what makes you so interesting. Most species try to avoid losing battles. Humans try to turn losing battles into winning battles by changing what winning means. What do you mean? He asked. Well, she explained. You came here to prove that your technology was superior to ours. You succeeded. Your ships were